Welcome to Chain Reactions, a weekly live stream and podcast from myosin.xyz, the leading global marketing network. I'm your host, Blake, joined by my co-host, Polina, and join us as each week we explore the chain reactions happening across crypto by interviewing the leaders behind the industry's most impactful companies. We go live on X every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern and release a podcast the following week. Let's get started. Three, two, one. Okay. Welcome, folks. Thanks for bearing with us. And welcome to Chain Reactions. This is our weekly live stream and podcast where we talk to founders, heads of marketing, leaders, and just all around awesome people from around crypto and the on-chain economy. We got Polina here, my co-host, and our community lead. How you doing, Polina?
Yeah. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. And really excited to chat with Ads today, or Adrian, or do we call you Ads today? Do we call you Adrian? I don't know. What should we do?
Yeah. I'm flexible.
Either one. Yeah, Ads or Adrian. We might switch off back and forth. She is a myosin member. She is a friend. She is currently the CM at Gnosis. And they've been cooking up some really amazing stuff and really excited to talk all things Gnosis. So welcome, Ads. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you. Good to be here.
Likewise. And good to see you. So let's just dive straight into it. I think we always start in the same way, which is we would love to hear a bit about your story. Before crypto, just like what does your story looks like? How'd you get into crypto and how'd you find your way to what you're doing now? Is where we'll start.
So I have a kind of classic weird and wobbly story. I started with a decade in business and brand strategy, focused on kind of positioning, big idea creation, narrative development on the consulting side, and then in-house. So I worked for brands across Unilever's portfolio, Ambev's portfolio, Molton Brown, Cadbury's, Prudential. Then I joined Diageo, the drinks company, in group strategy, and then I moved into global brand management. I was temporarily the European Queen of Rum. I looked after Pampero Cacique and Zacapa, as well as Captain Morgan across Europe. And I did global comms, PR, and social for Captain. Not all at the same time, sequentially.
I used to be a big Captain Morgan guy when I was
yeah? Excellent.
back in the day.
I'll get you to pose tomorrow night. See if
I
you
love
remember
the pose. I have way too many photos. Yeah.
So I was doing that, and then just as it looked too predictable, I decided the obvious next move was to move to Outer Mongolia, Ulaanbaatar, with my husband of 3 months and invest our life savings building service businesses together. So we built a company in UB. It was in what felt like a mega bull run. The country was sitting on the world's largest unexploited mineral resources, on the border of the world's largest customer for mineral resources, high quality, low cost of extraction. Felt like it couldn't go wrong until it did. They picked a fight with China. They picked a fight with their flagship investor. The market kind of came off a cliff. We entered the bear cycle. Fortunately, we had a really awesome team, so we were able to take ourselves out of the business. We set up a second company in Singapore. Sold the Singaporean company first to a global trade player, moved to Taiwan, carried on kind of running the Mongolian entity, sold that one, came back to Europe, got into tech startup via an accelerator called Antler. And sadly, after a year and a half of trying to get my tech startup off the ground, we kind of called it a day. But our last use case in that was within Web3. So while it didn't take me to mega unicorn stardom, it did take me into the crazy world of DAOs. And I discovered the ideological side of crypto. Like, my husband had been a long-time degen. Never, unfortunately, we didn't hold. we took it out for real businesses, which was a big mistake.
You didn't keep your magic internet money to
I didn't
forever?
keep my magic beans there. It was really sad. Yeah, the irony is we spent 10 years building companies. We should have just kicked back and just left it in Bitcoin. But there we go. I think lots of people have similar stories. But yeah, so I found DAOs. I found
DAODreamBeliever.eth, correct?
I am. It's really nerdy, but yeah, I am DAODreamBeliever.eth. Still believing. But yeah, and that's kind of how I got here.
Nice. And then you've had quite a journey within crypto, right? Because you were at a couple different places. Can you walk us through that? And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started out at Bankless DAO, found a wonderful home and incredible network and got to meet some super interesting people. Ads is actually a kind of a fallback or a part of those days where somebody very kindly pulled me aside and talked to me about pseudonymity, because I obviously blundered straight in with my actual face as my profile picture and my actual name as my name. And I ended up shortening it to ads and going with a PFP, although I've since doxed myself again. So, some girls never learn. And then I started doing consulting gigs, worked for different projects, joined a venture-backed startup. When they decided to kind of radically reset, they were no longer Dow Dream believers. They went back to the drawing board, didn't need a head of marketing. But I got on very well with the founders and with their investors, who were also invested in Pocket Network. So I moved over to Pocket as head of growth, head of marketing. Loved what we were trying to do, kind of decentralized RPC infrastructure, so that the means of connection to these great decentralized blockchains was equally censorship resistant and resilient. Worked on that for a year before there was a kind of takeover of the DAO by the original project founder. Decided to move on at that point, spent a bit of time in a data privacy project, then spent a wonderful, 4 or 5 months playing with AI with you guys, before joining Gnosis.
Nice. And then that brings us all the way home to forking banks. So let's talk about Gnosis, because I think a lot of people know Gnosis.
Yeah.
It definitely has a very strong brand name, but there's a lot of things that have been changing. So I'm not sure how you want to go about it, but I think maybe the easiest thing is like, what is Gnosis today? Maybe I think what would be interesting is, what did Gnosis used to be and what is it today? And what problem are you guys solving and what is the latest? Yeah.
So Gnosis has such heritage, which is one of the reasons I was so excited to join the project. It started back in 2015. Stefan and Martin initially started it. Frederica joined them slightly later. And they started building a prediction market on top of Ethereum. So it was all about, like, they've always been very focused on building the product layer, making blockchain technology usable. So they started with a prediction market. They were too early. There were too many missing pieces. So then they started building some of the missing pieces, one of which ended up being safe. They also built CowSwap in order to kind of protect your trades from getting milked. They then, they built Gnosis Pay. There've been a number of kind of different things along the way. That the chain emerged somewhere in the middle of all of that, and has since been running 7 years, zero downtime. And it kind of emerged as an Ethereum sidechain, again, to solve a problem that they saw kind of getting in the way of adoption, specifically around the kind of high fees and the slow transaction speeds at the time. So they've always been kind of these people that have kind of been very passionate about the space, very values driven, very kind of high integrity, that have consistently been trying to drive utility and usage and adoption. They've had the longest running conference called DAppCon that was all about adoption conversations as early as 2018. And they've been hosting that every single year as a neutral space for anybody trying to drive adoption within the space. And I think kind of, this summer has been a really kind of important inflection point, I feel, for the project, because there's this big recognition that as a space right now, we are undeniably, I think, poised for mainstream adoption. Between regulatory clarity, the fact that stable coins enable people to interact with the technology without the speculation aspect, the UX improvements, like we're there. It feels like it's happening. The big metas all around institutional adoption and people kind of coming to the space now. But it's not yet clear that our values are actually going to be adopted with our technology. I think there is a genuine, real risk that we just end up being new plumbing for old power. We end up being a back-end upgrade for Wall Street, for the status quo. And I, for one, am not excited about people rebuilding neobanks on blockchain. Like, that's not it. It's not what it's all about. We didn't come here to just see blockchain get adopted. If that's all that happens, then that's not really a win. Blockchain, we've had these caps that we were wearing that actually was one of our founders' designs. it was never about the tech. The tech is super cool, but the tech was a means to an end. The tech was cool because of what it enabled, because of its ability to give individuals empowerment, because of its ability to remove that kind of centralization of power, to give people agency, to give people custody, to enable you to earn more because you're an owner in the stack. And owners have always earned more. Owners have always won, It was about challenging the status quo, not rebuilding it. And I think kind of, we are emerging into that because from my point of view, like Gnosis is one of the people that has almost a duty to stand up and do something about that, because they're really awesome product builders. Like, they can build product. They have a treasury. They can take on the fight. They are super values driven. Like, the founders are not, are there for the values. Every piece of profit we make goes back to the holders. There's nothing extracted. There are no VCs we're optimizing for. There's nobody squeezing their margin out. It all flows through. So to build products where the profits flow to you, not from you, where the power flows to you, not from you, I think that's the paradigm shift we want to make. So for me, like, Gnosis is one of the places where blockchain is still a paradigm shift. And I think anybody that wants to build that future needs to stand together, because this is the time.
I really like that.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, trustless, permissionless, I think that's a really good point to like double down on, is like, I think there's so much talk of like neobanks, institutional adoption, but as you're saying, it's something that I think many of us, not on purpose, but I think many of us, because of just how much of a grind this industry can be, we've kind of lost sight of the initial values of like, well, how do we actually build a not new type of bank, but how do we build better financial systems that aren't so reliant on the traditional players just adopting and pumping our bags, frankly speaking, right?
I always feel sometimes like the ideology is made to look naive, is made to look kind of, oh, we'll get to that later, and I think it's really important. It's not beside the point. It is the point, Otherwise, yeah, anyway.
I wanted to kind of, ground ourselves in what is Gnosis, in, what products are there, because I know you guys, and you mentioned there are a lot of things, right? So what are these products, and how does each change that status quo that you just talked about?
Yeah. So I think the unifying theme for Gnosis is very centered on those values, on that mission. Like, we are here to make sure that blockchain is a paradigm shift, that blockchain is something that actually returns power to individuals. And we want to do that initially by making sure that we create financial products that make money more rewarding for more people by giving them back more agency, by giving them back more ownership. And the blockchain is the enabler of that. So we've been building on blockchain for a very long time, and that's that's our superpower. That's what we can do. So we have a really solid chain, 7 years, 0 downtime. That is the foundational layer of infrastructure that enables us to pull together a network of the world's money. So we are actively going out and onboarding as many of the credible, reputable local stablecoins that we can. Like 99% of stablecoin volume is USD, but 95% of the world's population saves, spends, and lives in other currencies. So we want to bring all of that on chain. We're creating an aggregated network of on and off ramps so that people have the means to come in and out easily, so that anybody who wants to build a future of finance that is more than just the status quo, who wants to build what comes after neobanks, who wants to build what comes after Revolut, who doesn't want to recreate that, but who wants to build what comes next, that they have access to that we can power those builders. We can give them the stablecoin networks, the on and off ramps, the chain itself, plug and play card infrastructure. We have a global partnership with Visa. So Gnosis Pay then has plug and play card infrastructure, compliance tooling. We can give you a stablecoin card program in minutes. We've got some exciting news actually coming out from Gnosis Pay in the next couple of months, so no spoilers. We want to make sure that anybody who's in for this is given everything that we can give them. We also have a VC that's funded over 80 projects. We have a business product that takes care of all of the finance side of things, all the back office finance for you, that will handle your integrations with QuickBooks or your accounting software, your reporting, your corporate credit cards, your invoicing, all of that stuff. And then we've also taken all of that and we've decided that, we need to dog food our own product, to use a cliched startup term. And we've launched our own consumer app. So we're doing it ourselves. We've launched in Ireland. We had our soft launch last week. It was amazing. We're launching with students. So we had, I think, I would guess somewhere just above 120 students on a Wednesday night in a pub in Dublin, where we were all talking about what comes after Revolut and how do we build that together? How do we create something that they own? How do they co-create that with us? Instead of going to them and saying, like, use ours, we're going to them and saying, let us build yours. And you know what? We've got this treasure room. We've got all these people. We've got this know-how. We've got these tools and equipment. Take it. Let's build this together.
I love that. And so I want to hone in on that, actually, because I think for many of those listening, right, like the Gnosis ecosystem is vast and it is impressive and it is OG, and it is really cool to even just like hear that framing of like, you guys are one of the few who can even take on this daunting task, right, of like what comes after neobanks. Because if you have to hop on the VC treadmill, it's really hard to think otherwise, right, or do otherwise. So you guys are uniquely equipped to do that. That being said, I think you guys as part of this kind of update, right, you guys had a big rebrand. So I'd love to kind of hear a bit about that rebrand and that process and how that went, how you guys got to, I love this tagline of fork banks. It's actually what we call this episode. We'll put it on the actual title as well.
Gnosis.
Bank on Gnosis, fork banks. Like how you guys got there. And then I want to double down and learn more about this Ireland's activation and, the reasoning behind which I love, of like reaching out to non-crypto natives, right? How do we appeal to the normies? And actually, I remember 2 years ago, everyone was talking about, we want to onboard the next billion users. And I feel like we stopped saying that for whatever reason, because I guess we all got jaded. I don't know, but it feels like that's coming back in a way, right? And how that feedback has been. But sorry, I know that was a lot of things, but maybe it's like, walk us through the branding story, tell us about fork banks, and tell us about the Ireland activation. Yeah, I want to hear more.
So, I mean, I joined at the start of August. So some of this, the decision to launch a consumer app had already been made. I joined a project that had like such breadth and such depth. Like they've done so much. In addition to the products I talked about, they built Safe, they built CowSwap. Those projects have kind of, I guess, grown up and left home, but they're still part of the family and there's still very strong ties. There's so much to it, and there's so much depth of ideology. I was at DevConnect last week, as I know you were, and we had so many amazing speakers on so many stages talking about so many topics. Like there's just this incredible wealth of opinions and points of view and integrity. But it hadn't yet been codified. So when I joined, there was this incredible and very daunting task of taking all of this and then trying to make it kind of simplify it down or distill it down to something sharp, small, that could kind of hold it all together, and in a way that was, I guess, sharp enough to kind of cut through over time and actually reach people and build awareness. Because I think historically, if we've been guilty of anything as a project, it's been that there's been too many aspects to us. We've been too multifaceted, and there hasn't been sufficient consistency across all of that to compound brand equity over time. And I did it all the wrong way. So I've been trained in brand strategy. I know the way I'm supposed to do it. And we flipped it on its head this time because we just didn't have time for it. So it's like, normally you'd go through, your workshop flow where you'd kind of source all of the kind of brand associations, all of the brand stories. You'd look at the external environment. You'd look at competitors. You do your target audience deep dives, etc. I ended up just kind of saying, okay, well, there is so much there that I'm just going to try to intuit what your brand strategy is. And then I'm going to play it back to you, which is actually quite a daunting role as a marketeer when you're joining a project. It's like, I'm going to tell you what I think your brand strategy is based on what I've seen you do. and then you can tell me where I'm wrong, and we can kind of just course correct from here. Because it's very hard as a new joiner to go to the founders and deliberately put yourself in a place where you're probably going to be quite wrong in at least some places. But actually, it worked really well because it meant that we got to a full brand positioning within 3 weeks, which then enabled
Whoa.
us to kick off our visual identity work. And we were extremely fortunate to have another Myosin member, Rom, supporting with that. And he knocked it out of the park, as all Myosin people do. He did a great job for us. And then, because when I joined, I also had a hard deadline that this was happening at DevConnect. I had to make sure it happened at DevConnect. And actually, when I started the brand strategy sprint, the reason it was 3 weeks was because I had made them pause everything. They'd already started the visual identity stuff, and I made them pause. And I promised them that I would make sure that I still hit this DevConnect deadline. So that was kind
No
of
pressure.
fixed.
And you
Yeah, no
guys
problem.
did. I was there at the
And we
dinner.
did.
You crushed it. Yeah.
And we did. And we did. And that was amazing. And I mean, huge testimony to the team that is there. Like there are some brilliant people within Gnosis, and all of them kind of pulled together to kind of make this happen. Because we had to execute across channels. We had our DevRels kind of at the last minute kind of helping us kind of reskin different sites. We had our DevOps helping us kind of manage all of the transitions. Like we had to combine many different websites into one. We had to combine, we had to kind of take what was a consumer-led visual identity, because obviously in direct to consumer, like it's very important that you have the look, the feel, the vibes, more so than it is in B2B. We had to then translate that from, students in Dublin all the way through to wallet builders and crypto degens. So you had to find ways to kind of flex the style, and then we had to execute it across all of our channels. And it was amazing. Like everybody pulled together, and it was just beautiful and stressful to watch.
What was the most challenging part? I imagine something along the lines of orchestration, since the breadth and depth, as you said already, is vast.
Yeah, I think there's probably like a couple of challenges. I think for me personally, I guess it felt very challenging to say stop what you're doing and give me 3 weeks. Like that was probably my moment of personal vulnerability. I also, we made some difficult decisions on the design side of things where, again, I paused to push through some research to make sure that we were making the right decisions and that they were less subjective and that they were more objective. And that actually really, really supported the next wave. So from a personal standpoint, they were probably the most challenging. I think from a brand standpoint, like finding a way to flex the visual identity across so many different products and audiences, and to flex the messaging across so many different products and audiences. And I mean, the day we thought up Fort Banks Bank on Gnosis and got legal approval to say that was major. Like that was a brilliant moment. So yeah, I think that was probably one of the unlocks, because then a lot of the ideas that we ran with in DevConnect and that we'll double down on going forward now that we have a bit more time, that's where they all kind
Yeah.
of came together.
I'm curious also because I know that you spend a lot of time like on research and going deep and understanding the brand and everything. How do you approach this process so that, for marketers listening this as well, like what was your, approach, whether that's reverse engineer the brand strategy or what goes into it, to like how does one, flip such an established, I would say, brand in Web3 space already on its head as a newly joined member? I think to me this is just impressive.
I mean, largely because we have amazing founders who gave me the license to do it, and have been so supportive throughout. It's been it is the kind of team you always wish you would join. And we might be hiring, so anybody who's interested, just hit me up. No, but it's largely them. The research piece for me, I've always been a bit of a research maxi. I've deeply missed it in Web3 because we don't do such a lot of it. and this has been a really great opportunity where we've kind of done our, we've kind of use the experience of the team when it comes to things like audience personas and insights. But then when it's come to our kind of making decisions around messaging or narrative, we've been able to lean into Web2 platforms to take our ideas to a broader audience, to understand what our competitive set is. We've been doing one-on-one calls. So the head of the consumer business and I have personally been doing one-on-one calls with young people. God, I sound old when I say that, but anyway, to kind of really understand their point of view and what's resonating, and we've kind of structured those. I think kind of in a sensible way, where you start kind of just by understanding where they're at, what their hopes, fears, dreams are, what their thoughts on certain topics and terms are, like what their natural associations with certain themes, like, what does
Like
the word?
crypto?
No, we don't mention
You
crypto
didn't
at
even
first.
say the word crypto. Yeah. I
Um,
want to hear more about this research. I think it's super interesting. So yeah.
Mm.
it's been so good. Like, it's been so powerful. I've been so glad to rediscover
What
it.
were some of the top like insights or interesting things, like nuggets that you found talking to different consumers? And yeah.
Um, so it's helped us shape our narrative. So it's helped us, like, we've gone out and we've been trying to find a way to talk about Web3 ideology in language that doesn't feel cryptocentric, that doesn't feel like what we wish they would think rather than what they think, that's grounded in what they actually think and feel. So, we use terms like, let me think. Yeah. So we talk about, using versus owning, and this idea of being a user and what that means and what it means to be the product. We talk about that idea of renting your money to banks to take and profit off, and then the trickles come back to you, versus owning it and retaining that custody and being able to get more of the value flow. Um, but a lot of that kind of came out from floating topics like, what does ownership mean to you? Is ownership something? Ownership isn't intrinsically attractive. People aren't problem aware. They don't know that they don't have it. So actually, if you talk about, and that was a really good wake up call. It's like, we're so in our bubble, like, just remembering that most people don't know that they don't have it, and they don't know that it's a problem, because to them it's not. It hasn't been so far.
It's just normal. We're so used to it in the
Mhm.
non-crypto world. We're like, yeah, I put my money in a bank, but you don't think about, that's the red pill moment, right? When you realize, like, wait, I'm just renting my money to them and they're making all the money. Like, as crypto people, it feels obvious, but I think you're totally right. It sounds like,
But also the burden
yeah,
of ownership. Like, something that gets played back to me by young people is, I like renting. I like subscribing,
Mm.
getting my
yeah.
music
Yeah.
on demand. And if I own it, then I'm responsible for it. Like, actually, I don't even know that people necessarily like want to own their houses. They want to move out of home,
I
but
don't.
whether
Mhm.
the burden of
I have no
ownership,
intention on buying anytime soon. I'd rather rent
right?
because, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
it makes
think,
no sense in this economy.
yeah, so just kind of staying, it's been really helpful just for reality checks from time to time.
Mm.
Um, Hearing how young people think about the future. Like, I feel like it's a really tough time to be graduating. I think that the impact of AI over the coming years is going to be really, really tough.
It's extremely
Um,
tough right now. The job market is terrible if you're a fresh grad. Yeah.
yeah, but I think there's this really interesting piece where I would say, while they are aware of some of the challenges, they tend, in my experience so far, they tend to be individually very optimistic. So, they're not feeling fearful. They're, they're, they're often feeling optimistic for themselves that they will find a way. That might shift as they come into the next half of the year, where they're actually trying to get jobs.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so.
I was at the event last week. One of the young guys was telling me that AWS used to hire 100 people in Ireland every year. And off those 100 people, 25 would normally be from the intern scheme. So, they've done internships with AWS before. He said that his contact at AWS was quite open, that like another 20 of them are probably nepotism. If you've got family in AWS, you get a bit of a leg in. So that doesn't leave very much. Suddenly you've got 55 that are open job market, and they cut 40 of those this year.
Oh my God.
So like the impact
yeah.
of that is brutal.
Right. That's a lot of jobs lost to AI because everyone's
And
streamlining.
then,
Yeah.
another guy I was talking to is super bright. I would have said kind of classic consulting material, very charismatic. He led the entrepreneurial club, like very, very smart, great questions, very curious. He's saying that he has been talking to a lot of the consulting firms, and a lot of them aren't hiring grads because the roles that grads used to do are being replaced by AI. A lot of the research, a lot of the analysis is being replaced by AI.
Which, by the way, a quick side note I know we were talking about crypto and Gnosis and banking, but on a quick AI note, I did watch a very interesting video talking about the long-term implications of like, this is not sustainable, right? Because if all the young people are not being replaced with AI, the middle management and senior management, eventually they're going to age out. So if we're not thinking long-term and training the youth to level up into those middle managers and like beyond in the next 5 to 10 years, I think we're going to see a huge swing the other way. Of right now, everyone's overly optimistic over AI and it can replace, but also like I'm sure we've all seen the reports, like Deloitte and a bunch of other consulting firms and lawyers, they're using AI and getting caught because it's hallucinating, it's making up stats and research. You're like, oh, maybe we do need some young people and to train and keep the pipeline sustainable. Like, I think we're just in a weird transition phase right now where we're overly, bullish, maybe. Yeah.
So I think my personal point of view is that it is going to have a seismic effect, and we are utterly unprepared for it as a society. I raised this with a friend of mine who's quite senior in the civil service in the UK. And I just said to her, like, just tell me there's a plan. Like, I don't need to know what it is. Just tell me there's a plan. She's like, there's no plan.
There's no plan. We're just figuring it out as we go.
But don't worry, because, we saw the Industrial Revolution. Everybody said that was going to be the end of jobs. Actually, new jobs emerged, etc. It's like, yes, after 20 years of social upheaval, famine, riots, like, this was not a good period. I'm not saddling in for 2 decades.
What a good example.
Progress never happens in a straight line, right? It's a lot of ups and downs, and it's scary, but all I can say is you try and learn and adapt. Otherwise, you'll get left in the cold. That's all we can do.
Well, hopefully, during the industrial and the agrarian revolutions in the UK, at least, you saw a massive centralization of power with things like common land being taken away from common people, with farms only becoming economic if you had huge land owning. So and people being forced into kind of these roles in factories to survive that were not an upgrade from the life that they had. Hopefully, in this period of turmoil and upheaval, we can actually create a power flow in the opposite direction, where we can use the ability of blockchains to distribute power, so that in this turmoil, crisis always breeds opportunity.
I love that.
That actually maybe power can flow back the other way.
So let's talk about that.
Or it'll go dystopia.
Hopeful note to bring back to Gnosis.
Fork banks.
Fork banks, power back to the people. So let's talk about that, right? Like, tell us about this event in Ireland. Like, what was the response? What are the value prop? I mean, I know you and I have talked about it, but we'd love for the folks to better understand, like, what is the value prop that you're putting out to the Irish youth? And eventually, I'm assuming more of Europe, right? But what do they like? Why are they interested? What's resonating? Like, hit us.
So it's very early. And yes, Ireland is just the start. Our product is strongest in Europe, and it's initially in English. So EEA, English speaking, it makes sense. But it's also a great grassroots market in my experience. So we're going with a multi-layered message. So the initial value prop, the hook, is very rational. It's get up to 5% cash back. And then the kind of emotional narrative that runs with it is, because owners always get more, and you're an owner in our stack. And then if you want to know more about that, then we kind of unpack what ownership means, why our approach is different, how we're built differently, how profit flows within our organization, how there are no middlemen extracting, that, and into that kind of narrative, and you can kind of carry on down that rabbit hole. We then also have another angle, which actually, one of the kind of big takeaways for me last week was that I underestimated how powerful it was around circles, where instead of running a points program, we run our reward scheme through social money. And it's this trust-based peer-to-peer money. It's, it was what Bitcoin originally set out to be and can never be now, unfortunately. That kind of peer-to-peer money, that ability to mint your own money, to retain custody of your own money, to use it, to spend it, for it to be a transaction currency, not a store of value, for it to be money, not digital gold. And actually, people were really, really engaged in the gamification of it. The gamification of trust and who you trust and getting your invitations. And we're bringing in actually a trust score, where you can grow your trust by being trusted by people that are trustworthy in the ecosystem. And you can effectively mint money on a fair basis across a population. And actually, what I had, in all honesty, thought was like a design decision that made my life harder, because complexity is not your friend in early stage products. Actually really captured people, and it got a lot of excitement.
That's interesting. So you're saying Circles, which is, for anyone listening who's not aware, is a it's a app and a product built on top of Gnosis Chain, I guess. Is it also integrated into the Gnosis app, or is it separate? And
So Circles is the rewards currency within the Gnosis app.
There we
So
go.
instead
it's
of
all
kind
integrated.
of doing a kind of points scheme, we actually integrated Circles. It links through to a marketplace. So as you spend, you get your cash back via Circles, which you can either switch into euros and spend straight in your card. You can switch it into GNO at a discount to market and grow your ownership, and therefore grow your cash back as well. Or you can spend it in the marketplace, and we've got a growing range of marketplace offers. But you can also participate in the broader offering of Circles, which is this concept of social money, trust-based money, where you can mint your own CRC. That you can, it's it's so much more than points. Like you can send it, you can spend it, you can, it's yours in a way that your points are non-transferable. These are fully transferable. And yeah, it was interesting. I'm now kind of revisiting how I position that narrative entirely, because you've got the kind of the career focused people, where we're offering them a chance to build the future of finance. Like, don't use the next Revolut, build it. You can become an entrepreneur in residence with Gnosis, and you can contribute to how we shape the product. You can become part of our community and get boosted rewards by giving product feedback, testing, iterating. You can create on Gnosis and explore the creator economy side of Web3 and what that means within our ecosystem. So there's like all of these different tracks, and that kind of helps you in that mastery, like showcasing your skills, your mastery, contributing to building something, making that part of your portfolio, your story, that kind of serious side. And then we've got just this social money side, which is a deeply ideological project, which people were just having so much fun with. Like they were just playing with it. I was like, this is awesome. And that to me was an unexpected learning from last week. It was like, okay, I might have underestimated this.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either. I'm fully aware of Circles, and it can be a very complicated thing, but it sounds like in this case, complexity is your friend, and gamifying it, right? Like, especially college students and like when you're younger, right? Like at all ages of life, you have trust circles, right? But right then it's like that unique point in your life where like all of your friends, you live together, you're in the same space, like there's so much you can do.
And there's been a ton of ideas birthed out of that around group money and pooling money and cool things you can do based on that. So it's opened this whole new direction that we're going to explore.
Can I just ask something? Because from everything that you covered about the app so far, it might seem like it's a student-focused application. So I would just want to know more about why is this decision was made to focus on students at first, and like what is your approach going?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Students, in my opinion, or in our view, are a great launch target. Like they're a great initial target audience because they're more open to experimentation, they're less risk averse. They also are easy to reach. So you kind of know where you're going to find them at given times of the year. So it's quite easy. We want to grow through kind of a grassroots led approach to marketing, something that has more in common with Innocent and Red Bull than with classic kind of ATL advertising that, I think in a space where there's low trust, I think you've got to go deep.
Yeah.
So students are more open, they're more receptive. We can find them and target them and talk to them more easily. But also they're a great aspirational target. It's like, Apple's target initially of creators, although apparently that was an accident. But, that led to accountants buying in. I shouldn't pick on accountants. Accountants buying in because they were like, we all want to imagine ourselves as creators. Like it has an aspirational aspect to all of us. And I think we all have an aspiration to being young. Like we all want to buy into brands that are loved by the youth, that have that kind of youth to them.
Young, cool, fun, interesting.
Yeah, when you're challenging the status quo, like who better to do it with?
Especially with money.
With this tagline also.
Especially with money. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
when you mentioned Red Bull, I just imagine Gnosis little car, how Red Bull has these cars, and go to colleges and like give out Gnosis cards. I can see it.
Yeah, I mean, I immediately went to, I remember Innocent Smoothies did these like yoga lounges around festivals. I like the idea of like an owner's lounge where you just do a tongue-in-cheek play on ownership and being an owner, and they kind of playful VIP style experiences because you own the stack.
Yeah.
Because you contribute, because you're part of it.
So what's the...
I'm curious.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Polina. Yeah.
No, I wanted to also touch base back on to research, now the rebrand and everything. What was the thing that was misunderstood the most about Gnosis that you wanted to kind of deviate from?
Honestly, I don't think it was the biggest thing for me wasn't a misunderstanding. It was just a vacuum. Like people knew the brand, but they didn't know why they should care. They didn't know what it stood for, what we did. Like it was like, oh yeah, I know Gnosis.
Yeah.
There was nothing under that. There was nothing to hold on to.
Guilty.
Right.
I think there was also a misconception that we were safe, or that safe was us, or that safe was Gnosis rebranded. Like there was brand confusion between those two. But I
Actually,
think
if you don't mind me asking, where is Safe within the Gnosis stack? It's just a totally separate company and product, but it doesn't sit within the Gnosis eco anymore, right?
so it does still sit within the Gnosis ecosystem.
Okay.
It's multi-chain, but they are still a very close family.
Okay.
I feel like it's a problem for a lot of brands within Web3. Like most people don't actually know what they stand for and what's behind this hype curtain for the long term. And I think that with the app, the rebrand Gnosis Pay, I personally know people who use Gnosis Pay every day. And, in a space where I think, especially in the last few months, a lot of new cards and these payment options, stablecoin payment options pop up. It's really important to actually spend time building the brand to create this brand equity. And so I think you're there.
Yeah, and I think there's been so many projects talking about being an on-chain neobank recently, right? And I think I think it's really nice to be able to go out and say, okay, well, we don't want to be that. Like we don't want to rebuild banks on chain. Like we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I think there's an analogy that I had dismissed because I didn't think it would work, but I tried it out last week and actually I got a really good response, which has encouraged me to maybe put it into testing. I feel like young people are increasingly kind of socialist. They are.
Yeah.
The capitalist system is not working for them. And you see kind of a rise of kind of that narrative in that group. And there is a framing where, we are doing for cooperative banking what neobanks did for TradFi.
Yeah, cooperative banking. I mean, that's basically what a credit union was supposed to be at one point. Back when in my brand strategy days, we did a lot of credit union branding at one for this project, and that's the ethos. But not easy.
Blockchain enables it.
Yeah, it really it brings it to life.
It's like cooperative banking on a futuristic tech stack.
Oof. It's old meets new, right? Or the new enables what we wanted to do in the old, but was really hard to do without the technology.
Unmet promise. It unlocks the kind of unmet promise of cooperative ownership or cooperative banking.
I think when you're targeting like young people and students, also really important to have this cool brand image, because there's so many shiny things and banking is like boring. I mean, Revolut is quite hip, cool and modern, but I think that they kind of fallen behind a bit, like a bit fallen behind.
Well, I would be loath to underestimate Revolut in any way. I think they do a brilliant job on their marketing.
They're adopting crypto now too. Yeah,
I know they are.
It's interesting.
I have utmost respect for them. I still obviously want to crush them. But
I think,
but yeah. No, go on.
No, I was just thinking, like, what do young people also like? And the first thing that came to mind is merch as well. And you mentioned that you, in the beginning of the pod, that you gave a lot of merch away at the Dublin event. So I already see like the Gnosis street style.
Yeah.
The new owl logo is pretty cool. I think, I agree with that. You guys should double down and create because a lot of brands do that now. Like Cheetos has like food brands, like Cheetos has like merch, and you guys could go all the way. Just do like a capsule collection and like drop it.
Honestly, I don't know exactly how the circles things work, but if the merch had like an embedded NFC chip or something that you could tip your circles or something to your friends.
I like that.
That would be cool.
Or we could go with the chip nail
project.
a la Winnie.
Yes. Hit out Winnie. Bring her in. Chip shout out.
So merch I think something that will be a lot of fun. We didn't give out a huge amount. Like we kept it a little bit scarce, but I gave we have 3 incredible student leaders that now will have one of our Fort Banks hoodies. And we had some really nice owl icon hats where it was just like the baseball cap, black on black with the icon front and center, and some socks, because you always need socks.
Everyone needs socks. As I hate to do this, but we are coming up on time, so I just want to give I think we'll have to wrap up this main section here, but before we do, want to hear from you. Like, what are you most excited about with Gnosis for, we're coming up on the end of the year, just being honest, right? We really have a couple of weeks and then everyone's off for the holidays. So as you guys are wrapping up 2025 here, looking to the new year, like, what are you most excited about? Like, you guys are going to go super hard on Ireland, I'm assuming, like go hard on the consumer push there. Are there, what's coming, I guess? What should people be excited for? Yeah.
I view it as being a single mission with 2 battlefronts. So the mission is to make sure that blockchain is a paradigm shift, that we make money more empowering for more people by giving them more ownership and more sovereignty. And we're fighting that on 2 fronts. We're fighting that in the real with our consumer product, and we're going to be pushing really hard on that, trying to really drive adoption, learn, iterate as quickly as possible. We've got like an agile startup team within the Gnosis family that is brilliant and is shipping products so fast and is really kind of chasing down the edge, the angles, the features, the narratives, iterating with community. Because this will shock you, but I am not a student anymore. I am a little bit older than they are.
We're all students in our minds and in our hearts, right?
The funny thing is, I don't feel older until I get reality checks. But trying to identify people in our community to co-create with, trying to we have some very creative and very bright young people within our team, like really honing in on those messages, using research, using community, using everything that I think Web3 does really well to make sure that we take a product and we capture the market with it. And then the other front,
creator campaigns. I'm excited.
Yeah. The other front that we're fighting on is within crypto. Like, we want to make sure that anybody who wants to build what comes after banks is empowered by us. That that is the mission of our times right now. You know, we do believe it's not just about financial systems. We've got a lot of open internet kind of ideology and products, and we've got products like Fileverse that are awesome, that are building, you know, alternatives to Google Docs. But actually right now, I think that the fight that needs to be fought is this finance fight, and making sure that it is different, that we are building it differently, that we're taking our values with the technology. And yeah, there we're just all about trying to support the people that are doing that with plug and play cards, with on and off ramps, with a network of stable coins, with our VC backing, with this kind of broader ecosystem that includes people like Safe and CowSwap and the founders of Gnosis, where we can help you and enable you to do that.
Absolutely brilliant. And actually, if you don't mind, I want one more follow-up, which is like knowing all those things, right? Like, I think what's really interesting is like when you have this robust ecosystem and everyone wants builders, I think what's always helpful is like knowing what you're looking for and like putting a call out almost of like, almost like an RFP of like, we have all these things. We'd really love to see someone build this thing. Like if you had to pick one thing that you wish a builder would come in and just like build on top of the Gnosis stack, like what would that be? I'm curious if you have a thought there. Yeah.
Competitors to our consumer product.
Ooh,
Come
interesting.
compete with us.
Okay.
Like, come do it. Build
Yeah.
something better. At the
Mm,
end, like, as long as humans win, as long as individuals win, then we're happy. Like, come and build the future of finance.
like that. Okay, that's a good one. And you could localize that for so many different economies. You just have to like, you just need to have the market understanding, right?
Yeah.
And the connection. So exciting. All right. So as we are going to move into rapid fire questions, they're very fun, very quick. But I guess, Paulina, you want
Yeah, can do. So the first one is the most underrated marketing tactic in Web3 right now.
Research.
I knew it. I think
It's
it's
important
been
to
an
know.
underlying thing for the whole episode. I love it.
It's
Yeah,
how
We
you
need
I'm
more
also
stop
a
research.
trade
research
out in the
nerd.
dark and actually
Yeah,
make,
yeah,
you know, take better bets.
I like it.
agreed.
Most overrated tactic.
This might be controversial. It might not. Influencers, big KOLs. I think, you know, there's still a tendency in some pockets to kind of think that's the answer to our token woes.
Well, we've talked about this with multiple guests. It's like cables aren't inherently bad, but I think the issue is so many people bungle, like they spend so much money on these activations, but with very
I
little
agree.
intention and strategy. So you just end up spending a lot of money on like these paid ads. And then you're
Yeah.
like, but for what? Like, what's
also
the
very
retention? What's the call to
panic.
action?
Like, I
Yeah.
think too much of our marketing is short term. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's and we over like if you don't have kids, you guys are younger than I am, but once you have kids, you really realize the power of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivators. And like, you know, if you take the kid analogy, we're like, you know, you kind of, you know, that offering your child sweets if they go for a walk, or if, you know, ice cream if they do their homework, it can be very powerful used selectively. And then you like take them to a kid's party where there's like so many candies everywhere and they go wild, like they literally go wild. And then like you have like the piñata and they're like climbing over each other's bloodied and battered bodies to get to that candy. And I kind of feel like we've kind of done that with extrinsic incentives in our space. Like we've over relied on them.
Too
And
much candy, not enough
and
character
And
building.
there's going to be a candy
sugar
hangover,
overdose.
you know?
I think there already is.
It already is. That might be what we're going through right now.
Next one is which crypto brand or project is crushing it right now that's not Gnosis?
I think lots of brands are doing some really interesting stuff right now. I love Aave's new product launch. I love the videos that they've been putting out with it. I think it's just beautiful. It's simple. It's clear. It's compelling. Very single-minded. I think they're doing a really great job. I also I love Aztec. I think, you know, they are doing some really great stuff. I think they've got a very strong team, and I think the privacy space is very important. Yeah, there's two. Am I allowed to have two?
These are good
Yeah.
ones. Yeah.
That's great. And it is funny because I'm realizing, as we were talking earlier, I think Aave is maybe one of the only other ones that I think can kind of also unlock this
Agreed.
neobank, not neobank, you know, like past neobanks, right? What
Yeah.
you're talking about. It's like between Gnosis and Aave, there are very few others. Yeah, exactly. Cooperative finance. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And actually, Aave, we have Aave is one of the products that we can integrate with the Gnosis app. So we can offer savings products by integrating elements of Aave, and it's like composability of our space.
Some good yield. We
That's
like
where it's
it.
at.
Everyone can win together. Cooperative finance, we can cooperate. Last one, and our personal favorite, we ask everyone this in the 3 different iterations of this podcast we've done, which is over the past year, what do you feel like is your biggest professional learning?
AI. It's not really a learning on its own, but that just the biggest learning, I guess, is I felt like a tidal wave of innovation was building behind me that I didn't have time to figure out. And I came out of my last but one role, and I realized that there was a tidal wave of innovation, like it genuinely was. And it's not perfect, and we can all poke holes at it. And yeah, you can spot AI content a million miles away most of the time, and it does hallucinate, and there's a load of stuff that isn't there yet. But it enabled me to win a hackathon. As somebody who's always had business ideas but not been able to build them, I could vibe code something basic, but it enables you. If you have knowledge, I think it gets really dangerous if you don't have knowledge and you're relying on it for expertise. But if you have knowledge, and you can kind of stay engaged, that you can't yet delegate everything, but it's mind blowing what it can do. And I just think it is an endless font of learnings.
And it's only getting better, which is the crazy thing. It's not getting any worse. It's only getting easier and harder to detect and, more powerful.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, we got to get with it. So exciting and scary, but exciting. And I think that's, at least I think about it all the time with like myosin, is like, at least for us, like, we're not cooperative finance, but we're cooperative marketers, I guess. And so it's a similar thing of like, we all need to learn how to use this technology together and improve on it together so we can win together and not get left behind.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, ads. That's it. I think we do have to wrap things up. But last thing? What's the call to action? What should people do? Where should they go? How can they get in touch? Let the folks know.
Yeah, so bank on Gnosis, build on Gnosis. Come if you want to build a future of finance and you want a good home to cooperate for that. Come check us out. Our website is gnosis.io. If you are in Ireland and you want to try out the app, we have an early access program going, which you can also find on our website. Or follow us on socials. We are at Gnosis _. And yeah, don't settle. Don't settle for a future of finance that is just repeating the mistakes of the past. Let's do what we came here to do and build something better.
Be better. Bank
Be
on
better,
bank
guys.
on
Be
Gnosis.
better.
Think better.
I like it.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. It's so nice to be here.
Always
Thank you
ads.
for
It's so
joining.
fun to chat. You're so sharp and good at what you do. It's always just a pleasure to just jam and talk about it. So very excited. Never been more bullish for Gnosis, and really excited to see what comes next. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we're gonna log off. So ciao ciao, and we'll
Yeah,
talk to you
bye.
soon. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.